I recognize the member for Nelson Creston.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I rise to take my place in this evening's debate on Budget 2016, and I think I'm going to pick up where the previous member left off with just a few thank yous. I'll start with my husband, Zach Marieshan, who is a wonderful person, a nurse practitioner in our region, and a very dedicated nurse practitioner and a wonderful husband, and is a huge support in my life, and I thank him very much for that. I also would like to just extend some thanks to my constituency assistants, Lori Langell, who's been with me since 2009, and most recently Tessa Bendig has joined my office following the movement of Curtis Bendig to the new Member of Parliament's office. And so Curtis was an excellent CA, and Tessa will also be an excellent CA. And of course, the local staff here in Victoria in the legislature are just outstanding, and Susan Farmer has been my LA for many years, and currently is working in the Leader's office, and I've been blessed to have Megan Blanquier to be my legislative assistant, while here in Victoria, and she's new to the position, is just doing a fantastic job, Honourable Speaker. So I'm so fortunate to have these people working with me for the benefit of the people of Nelson Creston. And before I move too deep into my conversation and remarks on the budget, I would just like to acknowledge some of the great work that people who are impacted and contribute to this budget. Of course, taxpayers, Honourable Speaker, are all about what this budget is about, whether they are receiving the benefits of a budget or whether they are contributing to the revenue side of that budget. And no doubt many people in Nelson Creston are on the contribution side of that, Honourable Speaker. And one of them I'd just like to mention and wish the best of luck this Thursday at the Small Business BC Awards. Mandela Homes has been nominated for Best Workplace in British Columbia. And I truly hope that they win, because I've seen the work that they do with their staff in terms of making it the best workplace. And they truly do value and honor their staff and do everything that they can to make it a wonderful place to go to work, because they build homes, and so they want to make sure their staff feel at home when they are at work. So, Honourable Speaker, in this budget, there are a few things that I want to highlight that are definitely going to benefit my region and are a good reflection of what happens when community advocates for their needs. So first off, Selkirk College will be receiving $14.2 million for a $19 million project to renovate Silver King campus in Nelson. And this, interestingly enough, is the first major renovation that the Silver King campus has had since 1964, when it was built. So here we have an institution that's been around for 52 years this year. It's going to see its first major renovation. Now, this funding didn't come from government benevolence by any stretch, Honourable Speaker. This funding is coming from years of hard work and advocacy by Selkirk College. And I have brought that advocacy to this House on a few occasions, asking the Minister to please consider the importance of upgrading the trades campus when we're seeing the need for trades jobs to be filled. And I believe, Honourable Speaker, the stats were that there would be 1 million job openings in BC by 2020, if I'm correct. There'd be 1 million job openings that we needed to fill, many of them in the trades, so therefore we needed to put investments into the trades to ensure that young people, people of any age, people wanting to retrain, for example. Honourable Speaker, a lifetime of work in one sector, they find that they've lost their job, they need the opportunity to retrain. And retrain is something that they're passionate about, something that they're interested about, something that they have the skills to build on, perhaps. And so we needed that upgrade desperately at Silver King campus at Selkirk College. And we finally, after years of advocacy, have that commitment, and we're very happy to see that, Honorable Speaker. Another point that I know that farmers and food bank advocates and food security advocates have been advocating for in my area is a tax credit for donating food by farmers. I can speak from personal experience when I was the coordinator for the Nelson Food Cupboard that we worked with farmers on a regular basis to acquire fresh, nutritious, locally grown produce for the food bank. And farmers never failed to step up to the plate and donate. And it wasn't being recognized, Honorable Speaker, and so I'm so pleased to see that that will now be recognized and that they will be able to get a tax credit for that. And I think every person in this House, Honorable Speaker, sees the good in that. But a few good items in a large budget that impacts all British Columbians doesn't necessarily make it a good budget. And I was sad to see the tremendous amount of what I can only summarize as smoke and mirrors that were put forward in this budget, Honorable Speaker. Listening last week to the Minister of Finance give his budget speech, there was a lot of smoke and mirrors, a shell game, Honorable Speaker. We saw the government give with one hand in many instances and take with the other not too far down the line in his speech. So one of those shell games, Honorable Speaker, was with the medical services plan premiums. Now, everybody in British Columbia is likely very well aware of the MSP premiums. Most people have to pay the premiums. And what they know is that whether you're making $30,000 a year or making $300,000 a year, Honorable Speaker, you're paying the same rate. And that's what's been going on in this province under the BC Liberal government, is that everybody's been paying this flat tax, Honorable Speaker. So in this budget, the minister made the announcement that children would no longer be charged for MSP premiums. Now that sounds really good, Honorable Speaker, but at the same time, they're raising MSP by 4%. Again, Honorable Speaker. And I think it was best characterized, I saw it in social media, it was best characterized as this. A family goes to the restaurant, the kids get to eat for free, but the parents are paying more just to be there, Honorable Speaker. And I mean, this is incredibly frustrating when you take a look at what families were paying just in 2001, just 15 years ago, for MSP. They were paying $864 per year for a family. Well, now, in 2016, a family is paying $1,000 more for MSP, Honorable Speaker. $1,000 more. And this is just part of the parcel of smoke and mirrors, of a shell game, where you see the government give with one hand, but only to take away with the other. Kids are going to eat for free, but the parents are going to pay more at the end of the day. So here we are in 2016 with families paying $1,000 more per year, for MSP than they were in 2001, Honorable Speaker. So where's that increase going? Is it going to healthcare? I mean, the minister did talk about how it's very important that people know that healthcare isn't free. You know, that was a very patronizing comment, Honorable Speaker. I don't think British Columbians believe that healthcare is free and magically appears out of nowhere and that there's no cost. They know that they have to pay their taxes and that the bulk of their taxes goes to medical. Honorable Speaker, The public is aware of that. They don't need to be patronized at all. But that's what the Minister of Finance did, and it was very frustrating to watch that. But not only were they patronized in this way, Honourable Speaker, but now they're having to pay more to hear that. They're having to pay more in MSP premiums. And it works out to be about a grand total of everybody paying more, works out to be about $100 million more, which is the same number going into the new Prosperity Fund, a fantasy fund, Honourable Speaker. This Prosperity Fund, the promise that was made to British Columbians was that this fund would be populated with revenue from LNG. That's what it was supposed to be for. That's what this government promised. They even stepped back and said, we're not going to do a prosperity fund right away when they were first elected because we need to bring in LNG. Well, here we are, 2016, not a dime from LNG coming into the coffers. By the Minister of Finance's own admission, not a dime. But they make a prosperity fund anyway. And who's paying for it, Honourable Speaker? Well, people who are paying a flat tax, they're paying MSP, and instead of that going into healthcare where it should be, in fact, Madam Speaker, they shouldn't even be paying MSP. They should not. This is a flat, regressive tax that should no longer exist. It's time to get rid of it and create a more equal way of addressing the costs of healthcare, a more fair way. And we all know that way is through the progressive income tax system, Honourable Speaker, but that's not the way the Liberals do things. They want to make sure that people making $300,000 a year are paying the exact same amount as people making $50,000 a year. And that's not fair, Honourable Speaker, but that's the Liberal way. So that MSP money is going into this fantasy fund that is there for Premier's photo ops. She can dip into it whenever she wants a photo op. Maybe another Ohm on the bridge because it was just so successful the last time. Dip into that for that photo op fund. And that's the taxpayers who are paying that, Honourable Speaker, and that's not fair. And that's part of this shell game that we see time and time and time again with this budget. It's not the only shell game, though, Honourable Speaker. Of course, there are others. There are others, Honourable Speaker. And one that I think is quite notable is the housing plan. Now, this plan was announced just before the budget. And the words used to describe it, Honourable Speaker, was historic and the best plan in North America. Just because this government says something certainly doesn't make it true, and nothing, the best example of that in this situation, or a more recent situation, Honourable Speaker, is clearly this housing plan. They say it's historic, they say it's the best in North America, but that isn't true at all, because it's not even better than the plan that they had in their 2015 service plan, Honourable Speaker, because what they announced with this budget was $355 million over a 5-year time frame going into 2,000 new units. Well, we'll see if those 2,000 new units are actually new units. For one, we know the history of this government and kind of fudging things around on that. But let's look at their 2015 service plan in comparison to this announcement. The service plan from last year promised $418 million over 4 years. More money over less time. $83 million more, over less time, Honourable Speaker. In fact, if we look at what the annual allotments are, this budget year, the government is now promising $50 million, which is $90 million less than what they promised last year, when they promised that this year would see $140 million. For next year, 2017-18, $50 million again, but that's $19 million less than what we saw promised in their 2015 service plan, Honourable Speaker. So if we even look at the government's own plans, the announcement made in this budget for housing isn't even historic. It isn't even the best plan, because their modest plan from last year is actually better than what is this year. But let's throw some smoke and mirrors at it, make a few things up, and hopefully nobody will notice. And hopefully nobody will notice that 2,000 units over 5 years is actually 2,600 units less than what is actually needed according to the BC Nonprofit Housing Association. They say that we need about 3,000 units per year just to get back up to where we need to be to truly address the need for affordable housing and to reduce homelessness in this province, Honourable Speaker. That's what they've been saying. That comes from a study that was done in November of 2015. So it's not outdated information. It's actually very current information available to this government. But they reduced their initial promise from last year and slapped historic onto that promise, hoping that nobody would notice that it's not historic. It's not the best plan in North America. It's not even better than the plan in the 1990s that saw 1,000 to 1,500 units, new units built every single year, Honourable Speaker. Not even close, Honourable Speaker. So it's really unfortunate that rather than doing the right thing, this government chose smoke and mirrors as the way in which they were going to approach any announcement on housing, Honourable Speaker. Now, this next shell game is one that has truly been upsetting for not just myself, Honourable Speaker, not just for Nelson Creston, but for people all across this province. And that's this new bus pass plan, Honourable Speaker, for people with disabilities. Now, in the minister's budget speech, and I will just pick that speech up here, and I think everybody had the same reaction as I did when I heard this in the speech. $170 million over 3 years to increase income assistance rates for persons with disabilities. This increase in rates will take effect September 1st. I think everybody was pleased to see that after 9 years of no rate increase whatsoever, people living on $906 a month, well below the most conservative of poverty lines put out by the Fraser Institute, Honourable Speaker. I think everybody was pleased to hear that some type of rate increase to rates was going to happen. And when we talk about increase to rates, we often think that it's going to increase the shelter portion and the cost of living portion of rates for persons with disability. But that's not actually what happened, Honourable Speaker. That's when the minister changed the tune. And we get to a place where they announce that they're going to increase rates by $77 a month to address transportation needs. But here's the tricky part, Honourable Speaker, is that they're clawing back most of that. For people who need a bus pass, they're going to have to pay the $45 annual fee that's always been there, plus $52 every single month just to have the bus pass. For people who got a special transportation subsidy, up to $729 a year, they're going to get $66 of their transportation rate increase clawed back every month, Honourable Speaker. Every month, that's what's going to happen. And it's a shame that cabinet ministers don't seem to understand what I'm talking about around the program. They should. They made this decision in cabinet meetings, Honourable Speaker, that it's affecting the lives of 100,000 people in this province. And if they don't understand this, they only need to go to their own staff or to the Disability Alliance webpage that has laid this out, just as I said. So to repeat, $52 a month is a new cost to the bus pass program, Honourable Speaker. And if you don't get a bus pass, you can get $66 a month clawed back from your $77 to address other subsidized transportation. And I know that the members opposite, Honourable Speaker, don't believe that the $52 a month is a new fee, a new cost put on to people with disabilities, because the minister in his budget speech made it sound like it wasn't, Honourable Speaker. And this is what I read. This is what he said. Some get $52 for a bus pass. Others get a special transportation subsidy. Almost half of those on disability, roughly 47,000 people, get nothing. Some get $52 for a bus pass. That just wasn't accurate, Honourable Speaker. It just wasn't. And no matter how much Liberals members opposite might try to say that it is, it just wasn't. The reality is that people who receive disability paid $45 a year administration fee for their bus pass. Period, full stop, that's what they paid. Anything on top of that is an increase, and it's an increase of $624 a year, Honourable Speaker. $52 a month is going to be clawed back off of their check the moment they spend the $45 of the administration fee out of their own pocket. And that's an important thing to note, Honourable Speaker, is that people with disabilities always had to pay the $45 annual fee out of their own pocket. So when I hear the government on one hand say that that program always existed, and I know it's just not factual, Honourable Speaker, that's part of the smoke and mirrors. When I see the government give, with one hand, a $77 increase, and then find a way to claw back the vast majority of it, that's a shell game with people's well-being. So why are they doing this? Why are they playing this shell game? They say it's about freedom of choice. And every time I hear them say that, Honourable Speaker, it's clear to me that they have no understanding of what people with disabilities, living on disabilities, life is like, and what kind of choices they have, Honourable Speaker, what choices exist when someone is living in poverty. Honourable Speaker, they don't have a choice between bus and taking taxis all the time. Taxis are expensive, and that's why they need a bus pass. And that's why, time and again, jurisdictions all over North America have valued providing people with disabilities a low cost to free bus pass. They have enough barriers in life. Let's help remove some of those transportation barriers by ensuring that they have accessible transportation at the lowest possible cost. And in BC, we know that that cost was $45 a year. And in fact, it's not just my words saying that, Honourable Speaker. I go to Accessibility 2024. Now, this is the government's plan for making BC the most progressive province in Canada for people with disabilities by 2024, Madam Speaker. And I go straight to page 9, where we have the plan for accessible transportation. And here's what I read. The goal: BC communities have the most accessible transportation options in Canada by 2024. What can they do? BC Transit and TransLink are committed to fully accessible bus fleets. BC Ferries is committed to improving accessibility and continues to improve service for customers with disabilities. Continue to work with communities to support discussions on transit options for persons with disabilities. Nowhere does it read, create an increase to the bus pass program of $624 a year. Nowhere does it read that, because everybody knows that doing that is cruel and is unfair and it is unjust, and it does nothing for people with disabilities but make their lives harder, Honourable Speaker. And it's at this time that I think that we need to take a closer look at some of these issues and direct the government to do so. So, Honourable Speaker, at this time I would like to move an amendment that I've placed on the order paper. And the amendment reads this: be it resolved that the motion that the Speaker do now leave the chair for the House to go into Committee of Supply be amended by adding the following: that the government recognize the cumulative effect of the increases in MSP taxes, hydro rates, ICBC premiums, and other fees and hidden taxes on British Columbia families. Honourable Speaker, I'll take just a few moments to just speak to this motion very briefly, and to point out that the reason why we have this amendment is because we see fee increases. We see fee increases taking place all across the board for British Columbians. So MSP, as I said, is increased by 4% on January 1st. Will increase 4% next year as well, costing $100 million more per year for each increase. And that's coming from British Columbian taxpayers. Hydro rates have increased, Honourable Speaker, and they have increased by 28% already since the Premier came into power in 2010, and will go up again on April 1st by another 4%. And this collects about $150 million more in revenue from the very same people who are paying MSP for the most part, Honourable Speaker. ICBC premiums, well, they're going up too, Honourable Speaker, 5.5% last November, and will increase again next year. Last year's increase collects about $130 million more from customers. Park fees, that's right, you want to go camping with your family? That's going to cost more too, Honourable Speaker, for the second year in a row. Bridge tolls, going up. BC ferry fares, going up, Honourable Speaker. Meanwhile, $1 billion in tax cuts for the rich, Honourable Speaker. $1 billion in tax cuts for the richest 2% in this province. Now, you don't hear members opposite brag about that. In fact, they don't really want to talk about it very much, that they've given $1 billion to their rich friends while forcing people with disabilities to pay even more for a bus pass program, Honourable Speaker. That's what's going on, and we don't think it's fair. And on this side of the House, we think that government ought to do its due diligence and start to analyze and truly understand the depth to which it is digging into taxpayers' pockets, Honourable Speaker. So with that, I move the amendment to the budget, and I've completed my comments, my overview comments on Budget 2016, and I look forward to the debate that's going to take place on this amendment. And I do hope that government members support this amendment and that they see the value in understanding the cumulative effects that impact British Columbians across this province when they jack up MSP, when they jack up ICBC, when they jack up hydro rates, when they jack up camping fees, when they jack up bus passes, and how that impacts people right across this province, Honourable Speaker, because at the end of the day, we have to answer to them for what we take out of their pockets. So we better have a better understanding of how that impacts their lives. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and I look forward to the debate.